Welcome to the PreSnap Podcast, presented by Line Star. All things fantasy football with some sports betting as well. Monday Night Football, we've got a playoff game.
Playoffs?
The Dallas Cowboys headed to Tampa Bay to take on the GOAT, Tom Brady, and the Bucs. The Bucs finished this season with a losing record, 8-9, somehow wrapped up the NFC South. Meanwhile, the Cowboys finished 12-5, kind of sputtered there toward the end with a loss to the Washington Commanders in their last game of the regular season. The Cowboys laying 2.5 on the road in this one. What are your impressions initially of this game?
What is kind of interesting, you said, Cowboys sputtered a little bit down the stretch there, whereas Tampa Bay seemed to kind of figure it out a little bit. So I think this game is going to be a good one.
Right. And there's the Tom Brady element to it, too, which is 35 career playoff wins. Want to know how many the Cowboys franchise has? 35.
Really? Wow.
The same amount as Tom Brady has in his career.
Their record versus Tom Brady is also very bad.
7-0.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I got the receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tampa Bay just hasn't been that good this year, and Tom Brady hasn't been, I guess, what he once was. Since 2000, only 7 teams have made the playoffs with a point differential worse than Tampa Bay's at -45. Yeah. All indications on paper say the Dallas Cowboys could roll in this one. Yeah. They've got an overall team DVOA that ranks 7th. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Bucs, they rank 25th. On paper, the defense for the Dallas Cowboys is much better. Their offense, when firing on all cylinders, can just absolutely roll over teams. We saw them hang 40 on the Minnesota Vikings. However, it's still Tom Brady.
It's still Tom Brady, and also the whole issue with Tampa Bay all season long was that offensive line was being just absolutely terrible. It seems like they've fixed some of those problems. And, they're playing a lot better than they were.
So with that, let's get to our daily fantasy projections. If you're out there playing daily fantasy, you can also find this information on linestarapp.com. Let's get into each team. We'll go by position, starting off with Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, who's had, yes, I know the interceptions are going to come up. Yep. However, aside from that, he's been really good. He has the second best EPA per dropback this season, second to Mahomes. He ranks 6th overall in EPA plus CPOE, which is expected points added plus completion percentage over expected. And when you take out the turnovers, he's actually number 1 in that stat, which was pretty jarring to me considering the whole narrative over the past few weeks has been, is Dak Prescott still good? Because those interceptions have just really killed him. What do you make of Dak tonight in a must-win game for the Cowboys in this high-pressure situation in Tampa?
Yeah, I think you really have to consider playing Dak tonight. One, it's the Tampa Bay pass D. It's a pass funnel defense. They try and make teams pass on him. They're ranked 28th, allowing 1.8 pass touchdowns per game. So I think Dak's in a really good spot. The interceptions are there, yes, and it plagues him. It also is one of the highest bet props of this week is Dak to throw an interception here. So I actually kind of like Dak. He may throw an interception, yes, but like his overall, I think he's going to do pretty well tonight.
Yeah, and he's got the top 5 offensive line there to help him out and a run game. Yeah. That's pretty good as well. Let's start off, though, with who he's throwing to, and one of those is CeeDee Lamb, averaging 80 receiving yards per game, which ranks 8th in the NFL. He had 23% of the team's total yards from scrimmage this season. That leads the Dallas Cowboys. He's just been such a game changer for this team, going up against a Tampa Bay pass defense that ranks 15th. Pass defense DVOA versus wide receiver 1. So kind of middle of the pack there. What's your forecast for CeeDee Lamb tonight?
Yeah, and overall, over the last 4 weeks, Tampa Bay ranks 28th in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver. CeeDee obviously is the wide receiver 1. He's playing great. He's played great all year. I really like his aspects too, especially the fact that Tampa Bay is allowing 1.1 touchdowns to the wide receiver per week.
Another big target for Dak is Dalton Schultz. The tight end is averaging 39 receiving yards per game. He's had 5 touchdowns on the year, going up against a Tampa Bay defense that ranks 24th in pass defense DVOA versus the opposing team's tight ends. What is your forecast for Dalton Schultz tonight in fantasy?
I really like Schultz tonight. If you watch the prop betting shows, we did have a Schultz prop in there. And plus, he's just the security blanket for Dak Prescott. And Tampa Bay has let Nicole Pruitt, Tommy Tremble, and Mitchell Wilcox all have at least 12 fantasy points over the last 4 weeks versus Tampa Bay. So you gotta like Dalton Schultz stepping in with those types of names. I'm all in on Schultz.
Yeah, the prop we bet was we got it over 38.5 receiving yards. So we're saying he goes over that in our prop bet shows. If you haven't watched it already, make sure to do so. Next up, our running back situation. The dynamic duo, the shake and bake, if you will, of the NFL. Quite the two-headed monster in in Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard has had his best season so far, 1,000 yards rushing. He's accounted for 22% of the team's total yards from scrimmage. I know I talked about CeeDee Lamb leading the team. Right there next to him is Tony Pollard. Incredible season. He's the more shifty back. And then you got Ezekiel Elliott, who's an absolute monster. He is the bake of the shake and bake equation there.
Absolutely.
Over the final 4 games, though, he did fail to reach 4 yards per carry. So I'm curious where you're leaning when you look at these running backs.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke all season has kind of just kept himself alive by getting touchdowns. He had quite a few of them this year. And Tampa Bay is supposed to be a very good run D. However, there's been some holes lately. Tyler Algier had a big game. James Conner, CMC, and all of these guys had big games because Tampa Bay was susceptible to the big play and pass catching running backs, which leaves me leaning to go Pollard over Zeke. Pollard's more likely to break a big play. A little better in the receiving game. So I think that Dallas is going to probably need to lean on Pollard a little bit more than Zeke today.
All right, so some great plays there for the Dallas Cowboys. Now turning to the Bucs and Tom Brady, who 276 passing yards per game, not bad for an old guy. That ranks 6th in the NFL. He broke his own record for attempts and completions this season. However, he's going up against a defense that has the second highest EPA per 100 snaps of any playoff team. When you're looking at that defense, can't look past Micah Parsons, who has 13.5 sacks on the season. What are you gathering from Tom Brady's outlook tonight?
The biggest concern is that O-line versus Micah Parsons and that Dallas front. So if they're able to protect Brady, I do like his chances. This Dallas D has underperformed a little bit lately. They've given big games up to Sam Howell, Gardner Minshew, and Trevor Lawrence lately. So you are able to beat them. And if anybody is able to, I would expect Tom Brady to. Dallas is ranked 25th over the last 9 games, allowing 1.7 passing touchdowns. So they do give it up through the air a little bit.
In 16 of the previous 19 playoff appearances, Brady teams have won at least one game, including each of his 2 postseason berths was Tampa Bay. So,
yeah.
And when you look from a fantasy perspective, you're kind of also betting on who's going to win the game, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think Tom Brady still got some left in the tank for this one?
I think he absolutely does.
Let's see who he's throwing to. First, wide receiver Chris Godwin's averaging 68 yards per game, just 3 touchdowns on the year. However, in the game against Dallas week 1, he only had 3 receptions, 35 yards. What I do like about this, though, is that he's going up against a Dallas defense that is great. However, against wide receiver twos, they've been surprisingly bad at it. In fact, they rank 32nd in DVOA versus wide receiver twos. Yeah. What is your outlook for Godwin?
Plus, when Godwin has had good matchups, he's just been targeted a ton. So since week 4, there's been 14 games. 8 of those he had over 10 targets, and most of them in the 13-14 range once he got over that 10 points. So I think Godwin's in a really good spot. Dallas also ranks 32nd over the last 9, allowing 1.7 touchdowns to the wide receivers. So I think he's in a really good spot.
Brady's favorite target, Mike Evans, 75 receiving yards per game this season, had 207 and 3 touchdowns in his last game that he played against Carolina. Going up against a Dallas defense that's good, 13th versus wide receiver ones in DVOA. What are you expecting for Evans tonight?
So first of all, with that last game, it was a huge game, and I think that game was coming. There was some aggression going his way. Brady's been taking deep shots to Evans every single game. Mm-hmm. They've just been missing a little bit. They hit that game. Tonight's is really going to matter if they're hitting that deep ball or not for Evans.
Yeah.
Evans won't be a star for your fantasy lineup without that big play.
All right, let's look at Tampa Bay's running game, which has been, let's be honest, non-existent this year. However, we got playoff Lenny. Leonard Fournette is in the mix in this one. Will he be playoff Lenny tonight? Averaging 74 total yards per game. Week 1 against Dallas, he had over 100 yards against the Dallas Cowboys in this one. What are you expecting from playoff Lenny?
Both of these running backs, Rashard White and Lenny, I think are in a good spot or a decent spot. And the reason I say it's decent is because they're going to likely need to do a lot of it through the air. Dallas has been really good. They rank 6th, allowing 0.3 rushing touchdowns per game over the last 9. So we can't expect a lot of rushing success.
Sure.
However, Tom Brady loves to check it down, and both Lenny and White are really good at pass catching. So
yeah, White averaging 48 total yards per game, and we saw him kind of come on towards the beginning or kind of middle of the season. He was really putting up some great numbers both in the rushing and receiving yards game. So it'll be interesting to watch the running backs, especially now that they have Ryan Jensen back at center, and how will that play into things with their offensive line, which has struggled at times to get the run game going. But with a veteran back in there, how much of an impact will he have? Is he fully healthy? SixScore.com says don't expect him to be 100%, but maybe his 75% is still better than another player's.
Totally, especially being a vet, 100. Working with Brady in the past. He's the quarterback of the offensive line. I think his presence will be felt.
And who are you going to in this game for sleeper picks?
I like Noah Brown a lot. Wide receiver 3s have done really well versus Tampa Bay. Also, Russell Gage. He's cheap. He's been getting a lot of targets. And you got to go tight end, Kate Otten.
All right. So that's our daily fantasy projections for you. You can find all of the stats and analytics you need to dominate in daily fantasy and win those contests. Check out linestarapp.com. If you're watching us on YouTube right now and you're liking our content, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel to keep up with all the latest videos we're coming out with. Also sign up for notifications as well. Now it's that point in the show. One of my favorite parts of the show is touchdown calls of the game. We got a touchdown call for Monday Night Football. What is it, Tyler?
I'm going with Chris Godwin. I think the odds at plus 210 are just way too long here. Dallas is allowing the most touchdowns to the wide receiver. Godwin is averaging 9.5 targets a game. And as you said earlier, they're very beatable by the wide receiver too. So I think Chris Godwin's going to have a game.
I'm taking tight end Dalton Schultz in this one. He's averaging 39 receiving yards per game. He has 5 touchdowns on the year, going up against a Tampa Bay defense that ranks 24th in pass defense DVOA versus the tight ends. He's 6'5", 6'4", 250 pounds. Like, he's a big target for Dak Prescott, and I see him going to him in the red zone in this one. And also, I like the over 38.5 receiving yards props that we gave out on our props show. So keep an eye on that one as well. Those are your touchdown calls. Remember to check out all the information that's available to you at linestarapp.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, sign up for those notifications as well, and comment below, who are you going with tonight? Are you going with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, or are you going with the GOAT? So now I turn the question to you, Tyler. Who you got tonight?
I think Cowboys got it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in this one too. At first, you can't discount Tom Brady, but I just feel like the Cowboys are actually a good team this year. The only thing I worry about is whether we've seen all weekend in the wild card games is coaching just collapses. Yeah. And that's what I worry about with Mike McCarthy, because that is something that's been plaguing them in the Mike McCarthy era. It's penalties, it's late game mismanagement. And we saw how much that can just ruin teams and their playoff chances.
Late game mismanagement against Tom Brady is not a good recipe.
Exactly. That's the only concern I have heading into this one. All right, make sure to check out our other videos that are coming out on our YouTube channel. Again, subscribe to our channel to keep up with everything. Good luck to you in all your prop betting and your daily fantasy. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.